Good evening, Wakefield. I call this meeting of October 6th to order, and I ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, in attendance, we have 6 of my fellow colleagues, Councillor Fox, Councillor Chrisley, Councillor Butler, Councillor Chines, Councillor Carney, and myself, and we are joined today at her first town council meeting by new town administrator Dee Casey, who we will talk about more, but welcome, and our town attorney Tom Mullen. Welcome. Public participation. I don't see anyone in the studio for public participation. And Sherry, is there anyone online?
No, there's no one online tonight.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on to discussion. Item 5A, regular town meeting articles. Our town meeting will be Saturday, November 8th. And item 1 is the senior tax exemption.
Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
I'm Victor, your town assessor, and we're up for another renewal of our home rule petition that will enable us to continue the Wakefield Senior Discount Program. It's been a very active program. We've been able to help, on average, about 250 or so seniors each and every year. And according to the cards and notes that my staff and myself receive, folks are very, very thankful that we created something like this. And if you'll recall, many years ago when I was posed with this idea, what else could we do for elderly? I just said, everybody leave me alone, let me think about it. And I came back with this based on the circuit breaker income tax credit. And if you'll recall, I implemented it in Reading first in case it was a total failure. I could always, well, it's Reading. Wakefield's going to be much better. So,
Did you tell the Reading guys like for the opposite?
They don't. But it has been a very successful program. There are approximately 25 other communities that have adopted either the same exact thing that we do or a very, very close facsimile thereof. You also uncover more as more towns begin to ask you questions about it. I've spoken to countless state reps, state senators, town managers, city managers, mayors, finance people, and finally select board people about this. And it's been a well-received program. This year, we have 243 folks that qualified. You'll hear more about that in my classification presentation. Oh, just to deviate 1 minute, once I'm done with the guide, we pass it around, we'll have new counselors invite to meet with me directly over a cup of coffee so we can go through the material and everybody has a great understanding of it. And for any of you old dogs that have been doing it for a while, you want a refresher, I'm your guy.
You had to bring up age.
Well, I meant, well,
Experience.
yes, thanks.
I was going to say I'm with you on that one.
I could go on and on about it, but if anyone has any questions, really.
Councillor Carney.
It's unusual to have a situation like this where it expires every 3 years. And every 3 years we have to renew it.
Yeah, I agree, which is why for the past 5 years, I've attended several subcommittee hearings on trying to get this approved as a statewide local option. I'm down, but I'm not out. It's something that I continue to do behind the scenes. I have many people in the Assessing Association with my back. I'm on the legislative committee for that group, and we try and try and try. But until that happens, every 3 years with a home rule petition.
Counselor Tynes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to underscore Victor's thought leadership on this issue because, Reading was the first, but, through the work that I do with the Mass Municipal Association and just sort of seeing, Victor testify, he really is kind of the brainchild between this policy that more and more communities are adopting. And so we really, I think we're very fortunate to have kind of a trailblazing assessor here and appreciate your leadership on this.
Oh, go on.
I will put in a plug to say the local option scenario for the senior property tax exemption is part of the Municipal Empowerment Act that the administration has filed, which I think has been broken into three kind of clusters of issues for hearings within the State House, but it's certainly something that I hope I know our delegation supports, but would love to see it gain some traction this year so that we can adopt it and move on without having to bring you back every 3 years.
One more time and done would
Yeah.
be nice.
Absolutely. But thank you for all your work on this and your leadership.
My pleasure.
Counselor Butler?
Sure. I think in terms of reading through it, one thing that was a little confused by, the assessed value of the domicile is no greater than the prior year's maximum assessed value for qualification. What does that mean?
Well, here's a two-part answer to
Okay.
no. It actually, that statement refers to the senior circuit breaker income tax credit and their valuation guidelines. So, for example, to get the credit this year, your home value could not exceed, and I'm doing this off the top of my head, about $986,000. So what we're saying is that in order for you to get the credit from last year when it was determined, your previous value cannot be higher than that. Okay. What it does is when people apply in this year, their total value, because I revalue properties, may have eclipsed it, but it's still okay because they were eligible the year before. So it's ensuring eligibility despite changing valuations going forward.
But they might not then be eligible for it the next year if now their place is worth $1 million too.
Well, I don't know, I'm gonna go up that high, Mr. Butler, but if there is an increase the following year, the state also increases that amount, so they could qualify the following year.
And then I had just looked it up, and so just for everybody involved, it looks like it's 72,000 for an individual, 91, or that's what it was last year, and 110 or 109 for married couples. That 100 to 150, that doesn't apply to the salary level, so it's not like they can make $160,000 and apply for this.
It's off of their income taxes.
Yeah.
So they would have to be under those thresholds. In addition, they would have to pay at least 10% of their income towards local property taxes and half the water and sewer.
Okay.
For example, one of the courtesies we extend to people who simply cannot do income taxes because they don't have income taxes. They shouldn't miss out on this. So we receive their tax information, their income and expense data. We look up the tax information, the water and sewer, and we run the calculations. So we don't want to deprive anybody.
Okay. That's fine.
Any other questions?
Oh, I do say I like the renewing it every 3 years because if we get ourselves into a situation where we can't, where we are incredibly financially strapped, I think not that this is a place that you would cut, but it has to be a place that comes up, otherwise it'll never get undone.
It doesn't actually change the tax levy. It just gets redistributed to the other taxpayers. So we all pay a very small amount of addition. I mean, I don't know what the number is that we pay, but it's a fairly minor surcharge that funds the exemption for those who qualify.
Makes me less happy about it, but okay.
I mean, I think, again, I don't know if you have a sense of kind of the...
Past couple of years, it's topped out right around the $50 price point. That's on the average single family. I'm happy to pay an extra $50 a year to help 250 seniors age in place and remain vibrant in our lovely community.
Property you know, the assessor is not an elected position.
That's right.
So,
I do it for the love of it.
I understand.
Any other questions or comments?
Motion. Do we need a motion for this, or is it?
Well, Madam Chair,
Can we-
the town council is here listed as the sponsor. So if you haven't previously taken a vote to sponsor, I think you want to.
Okay. In that case, Madam Chair, move to approve the senior tax exemption warrant article for presentation at town meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. 6-0, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much, folks.
And I will just reiterate what Victor offered when we do the tax classifications. I think it is good for old people, young people, new people, more senior people to meet with Victor. It is a lovely cup of coffee and it explains it so our meeting won't last 10 hours. Feel free to ask him the questions.
Get out of your system. Ask me everything.
Yes, ask him anything. So please take him up on his offer, shoot him an email and meet with him because it is not an easy thing to understand, even if we've done it multiple times.
Is this a 2/3? Is it 2/3 at town meeting or no?
I'm sorry.
Will this be a 2/3 vote at town meeting?
No, this is majority. The only vote that'll be 2/3 will be the recodification.
Okay.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you again,
Thanks for
folks.
coming
Have a
in.
lovely evening.
Thank you, Mike.
Item 5A2 and item 3.
Hey folks,
Hello.
how we doing? Bill Renault, Town Engineer. Before you folks, I have 2 requested articles for drainage improvements at Middlesex Court and Middlesex Street, a betterment process. So the residents of the private ways have reached out to us through a petition to look at improvements to their neighborhood. They have a significant drainage problem that was included in the packet. I don't know if you saw the photos, but essentially the intersection of the 2 roads floods over consistently and stays flooded for the majority of the year. So we looked at options and we found what we believe to be a viable option to connect the drainage to Traverse Street. So we've presented that to the residents in the neighborhood, and a cost of about $250,000 is what we are anticipating that to be. And they have gone through a public meeting with the Advisory Board of Public Works. We also had a neighborhood meeting where we presented and answered questions. And we turned it to a vote to the neighborhood, as we do for these types of articles. Of the 14 abutters that will be affected, we had responses from 10 of them, 9 supporting moving forward with the request. So the betterment process, this is basically, this goes to the residents of the street only, and so that doesn't have a tax impact to the rest of the residents. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on that portion.
Councilor Chrisley.
So the $250,000 I saw in here, is it spread over 5 years or 10 years, or was the vote held on that?
5 or 20, and so typically the folks are going to want to choose the 20. So that's typically how we move it at town meeting.
Okay.
We give them the option though.
So that means 14 residents are splitting $250,000
Yep,
over 20 years?
Yep. And so that was included, you saw the total of what, I think it's about, I want to say $17,000, I believe. I have to check back, but whatever the cost is to each of them individually.
Councilor Butler.
Do these folks get hit with, are they on the flood insurance?
No,
Right
no,
now, so
no,
it
nothing to
doesn't
do
flood.
with that. This is just surface drainage. It's just,
Okay.
so some of these private roads, what happened was they weren't designed and built to town standard. So these are the types of issues that we find. Typically, it's pavement that we're running into and doing betterments for pavement. This one's for drainage, which the state statute we adopted allows for us to do.
Oh, so are these still private ways?
These are private ways, yeah, and they're not being brought up to a standard. So I think the last one we did would have been Flanders Lane, and so we improved the roadway, added sidewalks, and brought it up to town standard to be accepted. This will stay as private. We're just doing drainage improvements.
Great. I had to look up where Middlesex Court was.
Any other questions or comments on this one?
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve town meeting warrant articles 5 and 6 related to the betterment of Middlesex Ave and Middlesex Court, and the easement to acquire the drainage easement over the property at Franklin School.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. 6-0, thank you. And item number 3.
Okay, so item 3 requests a drainage easement on 2 parcels, 15 Traverse Street and 100 Nahant, which is our former Franklin School. So when the town conveyed the Franklin School to turn into the private development, we didn't retain an easement for the drain pipe, which would actually discharge the flow I'm connecting to for Middlesex Court and Middlesex Street. So during our research for the project, we identified that need, so we're requesting to move forward to accept a gift of a drainage easement at town meeting. I've talked to the folks, both the abutter that has a drain pipe on his property, as well as the Franklin School development folks, and I'll be going to their trustees meeting next week to finalize stuff. They have a concern just about the tree. There's a beautiful tree that's there. We're trying to keep all of the drainage work that we'll be doing to the edge of that, so we're trying to stay out of the drip line or just to the edge of the drip line. So we'll make sure that tree stays healthy. And we've had a few of these over the last couple of town meetings. I think this is probably like the 4th or 5th one we've done in the last couple of years.
Great. Any questions for Bill? Okay.
We actually already voted on this.
Oh, did you do the
I was
drainage?
moving us along.
Oh, there we go. All right. Well, in that case, I didn't even need to go into it. Have a great night, folks.
We're way ahead of you.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
No, I appreciate all the information, and it makes it easier for people going to town meeting to have it all there. So thank you so much for coming in, Bill.
Of course, anytime. Thanks, folks.
Okay, moving to bylaw review committee articles.
Good evening. Thank you very much. So, good evening. It's a pleasure to be back here. I will try to keep these comments extraordinarily brief, as the others have done so as well. And welcome, Dee, to your first official meeting. It's a pleasure to have you on board. So, bylaw review committee, we have 6 different articles that are before the town meeting for this particular meeting coming up next month. By background, it meets every 5 years according to our town charter. For the last 9 years, it has been in session the vast majority of the time under two different appointments. And the purpose has been really to review the bylaws in depth. And I'm pleased to say that it has done a really good job of doing that, reviewing every general bylaw that has been entrusted to it, in addition to the zoning. And so this was appointed, the current committee was appointed in 2022. There were originally 10 members. At the moment, through attrition and others, there are 5. We also have a special municipal counsel of Attorney Bobrowski, who is the lead attorney for understanding zoning and any sort of property issues. He has been helping us with the recodification, and that money was actually appropriated in 2022 by town meeting. So, 6 articles. Go through these really quick. First one is on Chapter 147. This is on sidewalk cafes. All it does is clarifies that the police have enforcement. So at the moment, it's not very clear who does enforcement of that. And it's just a very minor modification. Chapter 148, news racks. It clarifies the definition of abandonment so that if a news rack is there without material, it's deemed abandoned, whether the owner is known or not. Chapter 154, Peace and Good Order, it updates the consistency to be consistent with Massachusetts general laws that have changed over the last 10 years. Chapter 191, Scenic Roadways, it removes a reference to the county of Middlesex, the Middlesex County boards that no longer exist and haven't existed for many years. That was noticed, so again, very minor update to that. The biggest of the articles that we expect there to be discussion and interest is zoning recodification. That is replacing all of Chapter 190 except for the maps. We're not touching the maps themselves. Those are referenced in 190. The purpose of this was to clarify the language. the existing zoning in the town of Wakefield is confusing. It's confounding. And it works for the most part, but it needs clarification. The clarification also takes advantage of some of the elements that have made Wakefield really unique. That we have multiple jurisdictional bodies, including the town council, zoning board of appeals, and the planning board for different types of projects. This leverages that so that different projects can come before. It also works with lots of town departments, and we have talked with almost every town department at some point through this process. As property tends to use a lot of different resources from time to time, they've all been involved through this process. Many members of the public have also been incredibly helpful with their time, with their effort, to make sure that there's a lot of input. The zoning recodification makes things reasonably easy to read, makes things reasonably easy to understand, and it will put it into a way that's consistent with how other municipalities also have updated their zoning over the years. There will continue to be changes. As part of this, we actually have had to have a moving target as the state has implemented quite a few changes that have been somewhat controversial over the last several years. We've incorporated those as the town has adopted. Things such as the MBTA bylaw has been incorporated, and other bylaws that affect zoning, those are also incorporated in. But we're not changing any maps. We're not doing anything that's going to have a materially negative implication. We are trying to make things more flexible, and I'm quite confident, based upon the discussions we've had with townspeople, that this is actually going to really be significant. If someone comes into town and they have an idea that no one has previously thought about for what to do with property, they can make a proposal. It doesn't mean it will be accepted, but they can make a proposal, bring it to town meeting, and town meeting can accept that as a creative development. This has been done in other communities with success, and it's something that we will have the ability to do. It also encourages newer forms of businesses to try and open up, some types of recreational businesses, such as if we don't currently allow for any sort of breweries or distilleries. Those are now conceived as possibilities. We don't know of anyone who is currently planning on opening up those types of businesses, but in the business districts, those will be explicitly encouraged as a form of development that can be done. Otherwise, we're doing a lot to empower the board, such as the Zoning Board of Appeals, to be able to be flexible with various rules and regulations as appropriate, but the thresholds are actually designated so that they really have to make sure they meet the needs of the town. And that's really what the whole zoning recodification project has been about. Clarification and making things to really meet the needs of the town. And I can't thank the members of the committee, the members of the public, the various attorneys that have been involved, including, of course, Town Council Mullen, as well as Attorney Bobrowski, who has another commitment this evening, who've been incredibly helpful through this process. So that our article is likely to have some questions. If people have questions about this, there will be 2 public hearings by the planning board. I highly encourage people to attend those, ask questions about them. A copy of the recodification is available online at the planning board site, as well as the bylaw review. Those are cross-linked. Thank you, Sherry, for helping out to make sure that that's actually done so that people can access the information very easily. If someone wants a printed copy, that can be available in Dee's office. Again, thanks to Sherry, she's gone ahead and made sure that that can become available. So the idea is that we want people to ask questions, be prepared for town meeting. We're not planning to hand everyone a booklet as they enter town meeting and say, oh, we expect you to read 140 pages up front. That's not realistic to do that as you enter town meeting. So the entirety of the articles, which is in a consistent, that has been previously approved by the Attorney General, just takes all the chapter headings that we currently have and replaces them with new chapter headings. So that's what the article itself is about before you. The very last, and again, zoning highlights, no dimensional changes, no changes to maps. We're not trying to change the look and feel of the town through this process. There are other processes if people want to make changes to density, they want to make changes to maps. Those are processes typically that goes through planning and planning extensively, and those are appropriate venues for that. The final article that we have is on the review of the activity from the committee itself. This is required per our other bylaws, and upon handing that proudly over to our town moderator and the vote to accept it, whether the vote is in approval or not, but upon handing it, our committee, after about 3.5 years of hard work, will be officially discharged, and I know my fellow committee members will know that they've done a really good job when that happens. So those are the articles that we have at the November 8th town meeting.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you to you and your fellow committee members and Mark and everyone that's helped along the way. Any questions or comments for Dan? Councillor Chrisley.
Thanks for that review, Dan. I'm sure it was a lot of detailed work. If you can flip back to one slide, can you just explain a little bit more about what allows for expanded services, e.g. senior housing? What does that entail?
Sure. The expanded services is the idea for things such as the business services that I was mentioning, but it also changes the definition for senior housing. Right now we have the definition in the overlay district that was developed and is currently in use by the Brightview facility actually uses a language and a model that actually was more common about 20 years ago and doesn't support full continuum of care senior housing. So this updates the definitions to encourage full continuum of care. That's independent living, assisted living, memory care, rehabilitative care, all under one roof. The current zoning doesn't have all of those definitions in there, so it could be a little bit limited. So that's why it's really expanded services. And if that is desired by a developer or other person to build in another place, we'll have the language about where that can be built. Great question.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Chines?
First of all, thank you very much for the work on this. I mean, I think any of us who've spent any time with our zoning bylaws could appreciate how immense the challenge was of going through this. And the updates are sorely needed. So I appreciate all the work that's there. I think in the vein of Councillor Chrisley's question, I think for the second and third to the bullet points at the end, the new creative development in businesses and the expanded services, one of the things I think that would be helpful for town meeting is to inventory those. So people aren't going to go through 150 pages in most cases, but being able to kind of explain exactly what you just did and say, this is what we mean by expanded services. I do think that as we talk about these options, they really don't change what we are allowing. They sort of modernize and I think simplify in some ways the way that we refer to the things that we're already permitting. I think that's an important distinction that, if we can kind of highlight those things in particular, I think that'd be helpful for the folks who are attending town meeting and opining on this in a month or so. But again, thank you very much for the work that you've done. It's been incredible. And, as someone who's kind of read through various drafts, if you've gone through, again, it really is incredible the amount of work, the professionalism, and the effort that's gone into it.
Thank you, and thank you for the input.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Carney?
I think for the first time, Dee, I think we have to turn to you. This information has to get out there somewhere ahead of time. So we have to have a plan working with our communications director, because if we go to town meeting and people are asking questions are totally blind to it, it's kind of a scary, slippery slope here. So to get the full support of people, I think you'd at least provide all the information readily available here at the town hall or a number of locations, however we might do that. Thank you.
Thank you. That's good feedback. Yeah, we have this great new updated website that our Jen McDonald worked really hard on, and I'm looking at it now. I think a page about town meeting and all this information there is a great idea. So there's one place, and we can link to the public meetings that are going to happen on some of these things. I think that's a great idea. Thanks, Counselor. Counselor Chrisley?
Just one interest question, Dan, you may not know the answer to this, but on the Article 7, was this the section of the bylaws that allowed us to do like parklets and street side dining during the pandemic? Does it fall under this section of the
I'm not
bylaw?
sure which I don't have the article listing.
It's the
available.
sidewalk cafe.
Yeah, the sidewalk cafe one.
Sidewalk cafes, for that, it's just making it so that it's clear that the police are the ones who do the enforcement, as opposed to, say, the building inspector.
Okay.
Counselor Fox?
How big of a packet will we be receiving at town meeting based on this? Will there be, I know a lot of people don't read until they get there. Like, I'd like to think a lot of people will look ahead of time or attend the meetings you're going to hold, which will be very informative because I know the work we've done on this before. So are we going to give people a very large packet explaining in detail, or it's just going to be a 10-minute presentation and go from there? How are you anticipating it going?
Great question. A lot of the answer to that is going to be based upon the feedback that comes from the planning board meetings and those hearings. So we expect that at the planning board hearings, we will hear the questions, comments, and concerns that have not already been previously raised. And from that, we will actually develop the presentation for the town meeting attendees. We're not currently planning, and again, it's subject to what we hear at the public hearings, we're not currently planning on going into a ton of detail on every element of the changes. It's 140 plus pages of changes. Attorney Bobrowski will be present and he will be available to answer any specific questions that come up. But we encourage people to look, and if they have questions, to please ask in advance so we can get the questions asked, whether we can answer them in advance or we need to wait till town meeting, we raise them there. That will be dependent upon what the questions are. But how it will be presented, the goal is to present it in a way that's brief, in some ways similar to how we're presenting it here. This is really a language update as opposed to a substantive character update. The town has previously had master plans, it has other components to really determine what the future of the town should look like. That's something that really falls within the province of the town council and the planning board, more than a board that's appointed to review the bylaws. We're here to really to do the language and make sure things are clear. But it's a great point. And my goal at town meeting is to keep presentations very short.
Thank you. You did great tonight, so I'm hoping it's,
Counselor Butler?
Sure, I think I'm trying to reconcile like the Article 9 with what's in the proposed, which is the marijuana dispensary, like getting rid of marijuana establishments forbidden, but then in the bylaw we have a whole thing on the registered marijuana dispensaries and the purpose of them and the
I believe
rules
that,
of
are
which
you
are
referring to
those.
chapter 154?
yes.
Okay, so for chapter 154, and Town Council Mullen, you may want to talk about this. This was the deletion of the sentence replacing the marijuana establishments forbidden and allowing it for medical purposes, consistent with MGL 94I.
Yeah. In Wakefield, we address marijuana both in the zoning bylaws and in the general bylaws. And in the general bylaws, there was a general prohibition. Well, that won't fly. The state insists that we permit medical marijuana. And that's basically what this says.
As the one vote who voted no against when we forbade the marijuana establishments, I'm in favor of it. I was just trying to reconcile. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, Dan, we will thank you for explaining these. I know you came to 2 of our meetings, and we will see you at town meeting. Thank you so much.
We'll see you and hopefully see lots of people at town meeting. And again, much thanks goes to all the committee members who have spent, at this point, hundreds of hours going through it right now we're at draft 11 of going through all this information. So there's a lot there, and then going through all of the other bylaws. So much thanks to everyone. And again, please give input at planning board hearings as well.
Thank you so much, Dan. Item 5B, alcohol regulations process.
We don't need to vote on for like Dan's stuff, right?
No, because it's sponsored by the bylaw committee. Hello. Would you like to introduce yourself? And
My name is Anthony Choi. I'm the health director for Melrose, Wakefield, and Stoneham.
My name's Liz Parsons. I'm the Prevention Outreach and Youth Services Manager for the town of Wakefield.
All right. Thank you for the council for allowing us to have this opportunity to share an update on the alcoholic beverage policy review process. Thank you to Chairperson Butt and Councilor Chines for inviting us as town council liaison to the Health and Human Services Department to conduct a review of the current alcohol beverage policies and to make recommendations to the town council. Just for those who are new tonight, this is Liz Parsons. We're very lucky to have her. She's an expert on alcohol policy. She has worked in our region previously on substance use prevention and alcohol policy, and she also worked on the national stage on alcohol policy as well. So I'll let Liz kind of get into the details of the process, but we are thankful that the council has taken this time to be thoughtful about this process of updating our alcohol regulations, which have been in place for some time. So.
So since this review request was made by Councilor Chines, we've recruited volunteer experts in public safety, alcohol enforcement, and alcohol policy, as well as an internal staff review team, which includes the police department, the community and economic development department, health and human services, and the town administrator's office. The volunteer experts, the police department, and the health and human services department have reviewed the current regulations and provided initial feedback. We're about to begin the stakeholder assessment phase, where we'll send out a survey, which can be available in any language. And we'll conduct one-on-one interviews with some key stakeholders, including on and off-premise licensees, one-day licensees, economic development stakeholders, public health representatives, and public safety reps. The results will be reviewed and will identify any gaps and needs in the current regulations, and the internal staff review team will create a draft recommendation package based on the combined feedback. We'll also keep the Board of Health informed and updated. And after review by Town Council Mullen, we present the draft to the Town Council for review and receive community input. Our goal is a final draft of recommendations presented to Town Council in May. And we acknowledge that processes like these may also require some flexibility as we accommodate stakeholder time and schedules. And we are committed to conducting a comprehensive review to provide the town council with as much information as possible to help make informed decisions. We're also looking forward to updating Dee, our new town administrator, in more detail about this review. Thank you.
thank you so much, Councilor Chines.
Sure. I just want to provide a little bit of additional context around sort of where this came from. So this is probably now going back about 1.5 years or 2 years. There was some efforts by the council to look at what are called the Division 2 regulations, which are actually codified if you go onto the town website in E-Code. They're codified on E-Code, but are actually not bylaws. They're town council regulations. And there are 3 sets of them. One of them is the alcohol regulations that, as Mr. Choi mentioned, really haven't been reviewed in at least 20 years from what we could tell. And so, this effort really started as an opportunity to make sure that we were doing our due diligence, not dissimilarly from what we just heard from the Bylaw Review Committee in terms of looking at the zoning recodification, to make sure that, the regulations that we're putting in place as a town council, first of all, are just consistent with existing state and federal law. That's a thing that, we really haven't checked very recently. But also to use this as an opportunity to make sure that we were kind of aligning with both kind of the quality of life concerns that people have expressed, as well as, really making sure that we were creating a set of regulations that appropriately balanced public health concerns with also the importance of, sustaining and supporting our business community. This has been a long process, so Liz and Anthony and I spoke, I think, for the first time, and according to the timeline, back in March. The reason it's a long process is because they've done a really great job of both, digging into research and best practices, but also looking at how do we engage all of the stakeholders. And so given that, we've kind of talked about this in passing in other settings, we thought it was helpful to, kind of give a little checkpoint here on the process so that people understood the work that was being involved, and that when we do start to have actual policy decisions and recommendations come to us, later in the year, early in 2026, we understand the context behind how we got from there to here over that time. So again, I really do commend Liz and Anthony and their teams for the work that's gone into this. They've made a ton of effort to engage with all of the stakeholders involved, at least in town government so far. We will see that kind of expanded externally, and I think that's a good thing, and I think that will help us develop some policy recommendations that will be worth our discussion.
Great. Any other, Councilor Butler?
Yeah. I don't see how it's 20 years ago. We just adopted the licensing thing. We just adopted 205 in 2013. And we amended it in 2018, and we already have and I'm not sure if this is the official submission or if this is a draft submission, we have 19 pages of alcohol beverage policy listed here, and I don't think any of your other towns has anywhere near that degree. I just feel like this I believe, and Jonathan talked about this as like starting a conversation. I don't think there was any groundswell for this. I think this was a decision by y'all, and that's fine, but I don't feel like it has been an overly long time since we revisited our policy on the use of alcohol in town by adults, presumably who are not it just feels like I'm not sure what's being driven here. And I'm not sure I know that when you guys came before us, what was it, 5-6 months ago, it was coming on sort of with the full prohibition stance of there is no measure of alcohol is good from a health standpoint. And I'm not even going to argue that, but I'm also saying what I'm concerned about is I'm not sure what you're looking to do here. And also, I assume this isn't updated because this would have presumably allowed the tastings piece. Is this the thing we have in front of us? Is that a proposed document?
If I may, Madam Chair. What we have in front of us is the existing set of regulations. So adopted in 2013, so maybe it's not 20 years ago, it's 12.
We revisited in 2018.
No, so the 2018 refers to, if you look at every section that was updated, that's when we changed the name from Board of Selectmen to Town Council. Yeah. So nothing substantive was changed other than the references to us because the name of the body changed. So this really hasn't, other than that change, this has not been touched since apparently 2013. Obviously, none of us were around for the 2013 revision, so I don't know the extent to which it was a thorough vetting. When we started this discussion, and this may have been before any of us were on the council except for Councilor Butt and I, when we started this discussion about policies, there was a sense from the town council at that time that this was something that we should spend some time on. And there was a sense from former town administrator Mayo that it had been quite some time before we had really taken a solid look at it. So again, it's taken a while to do that because the staff has tried to take a very comprehensive and kind of measured approach to it, but this was something that a prior town council did deem to be worthy of some effort.
I'd love to see that, but that's fine. And then the part that I'm confused about is this whole notion of we had this whole battle over tastings, and in this we've got a section here, tastings, J, tastings offered by farmer winery licensees shall be offered free of charge, may be delivered, I'm confused as to how we had this in our bylaw, and yet people were so adamant about not having it at the farmer's market that it was not an approved use. I'm just not sure what we're doing here. And I'm also raising the question of, you're for 3 towns now, right?
That's correct, yes.
Right. And I looked about. I don't think any other town has this degree of regulation or / nosiness on alcohol purchase or sale, consumption. Most of it just flows back to the state with a few random things posted here. Not even Melrose, who didn't sell booze for a gazillion years, has this degree of input on alcohol sales in town. Again, I think if we're talking about all the stakeholders, I know you rattled off 3 that have decidedly would tend to err on the side of prohibition versus sort of, I guess, individual freedoms, and I guess that's where I'm a little torn. I don't really understand why it got come up, but I wouldn't want it to be portrayed as there was a groundswell from the council. I think this, from the timeline and Jonathan's going back, but it feels like Jonathan, Anthony, and you had a conversation and we started down this road. Other than this being a pet project, it doesn't seem to me like why we marched on this, why this became a huge topic for us.
So there are lots of questions in there.
Why are we why are we doing it, and why is this key and central? Not for you guys, for them.
So Anthony, do you want to answer that? And also just about the other towns that you oversee.
Sure. I think it's difficult to qualify how the other towns have approached this. We have substance use prevention efforts in the other towns. Alcohol is a priority for us to address. Actually, Melrose did have some draft regulations before the Liquor Commission, so it's a different body than the Town Council. Town Council doubles as a Liquor Commission here. We have a separate 3-member board there. We did have some regulations before them. There was a change in administration, and since then it's just been very busy for the new administration, so we haven't revisited those regulations. Melrose was in a similar position. The regulations hadn't been updated in a while, so we had made some recommendations. We do plan to revisit those probably in the next fiscal year, I would assume, within the next fiscal year, I assume. Stoneham, we've also started that process as well. We actually hold the drug-free communities grant there. Alcohol is one of the 3 substances that we have identified as a priority in Stoneham to address. In a similar position, Stoneham has not updated their alcohol regulations in some time, so we have started that draft policy as well. To answer your question, why we're focusing on alcohol here, alcohol use is something that is a public health issue. We focus on it because we've seen some progress, we've seen some number of usage go down, but that's after years of work on the prevention side. We've worked very hard with our schools, with our youth. We've had a lot of great legacy of work with those folks who are now very involved in our town as well. We've seen great progress with that, and regulation and policy is a big part of what brings down our alcohol use numbers. And so I think as a whole, we want to make sure that we don't come at this from a prohibition standpoint. We never have. What we do is we follow the evidence. The evidence nationally and from other research bodies that are credible have stated that there is no safe amount of alcohol to use. That's not a statement that we've made up. That's not a statement that we are saying as an opinion. That is a fact. But what we do is we want to make sure we want to balance the interests of the town, and so that's why when Councillor Chines did talk with us about this, we are open to bringing in folks like the community and economic development folks. We are open to bringing in folks like the Chamber of Commerce and others because there is a balance to be walked there, and public health doesn't exist in a vacuum. So that's why we do what we do.
Councillor Carney?
I wouldn't want to be presented here that I'm a teetotaler. But the bottom line is, at the last meeting, what I interpreted that is the fact that I wouldn't want to have the police chief investigate if there were any issues in other towns where you had these tastings. I wanted to know the problems out there, because I would have voted with the minority in that last one, except the police chief said he had some concerns about it. So I think I took it as I'm going to air these things out, and we'll discuss them, and we'll have the folks come in and speak and talk about it. So I'm not here as an abolitionist, trust me.
No, I think I'm more asking, I guess the three of them, like, what do we think we're going to get here? What are you hoping, what would be the grand, where do we think we're ending this? You're not, what are we hoping to do, end NIPS? I mean, that's fine, but.
Councillor Chines?
So there isn't an ulterior motive in terms of getting to a certain place with this process. I think the reason why this is important to do is, again, one, we have not looked at this in a long time. And again, things change. It makes sense to kind of view this. And this was what a prior council felt, pretty strongly about when we had that discussion. I think the other reason why this is important is I've noticed over the last few years, whenever we have alcohol licenses come in front of us, we end up having very circumstantial discussions on things that, potentially could be applied sort of idiosyncratically or selectively to certain vendors. Things like hours of operations, how things are displayed, what kind of posters are in the window. And, we've done that in the context where none of that is addressed in policy and regulation. And I think that's actually a really dangerous precedent to set. I think it's important for us to have consistency with how we, as the licensing authority for the town, act. I mean, it's the same reason why we have fiscal policies in place that we also have updated in my time on the town council, because what we want to do is create a certain level of kind of expectation and best practice that guides the decisions that we make. Now, that will touch on, I would imagine, as we have this discussion, when we actually have a policy in front of us, we'll be talking about what do we think on sampling and hours and operations and NIPS and so forth. And that's the right discussion to have once we've kind of gathered all of this feedback. But the benefit of going through that process is we'll be able to have that discussion in context, with data, with feedback from the community, and in a way where we're able to have that discussion, and I think a full and robust and informed way, so that we don't end up in the future kind of making determinations for, one-off license applications. I think that's the goal here. I don't know where we end up in all of this. I don't know where I feel on some of these things. I don't have a strong, well-formed opinion on how, for example, we should or should not be regulating NIPS. But I know that's a conversation that we need to have, and I really appreciate and applaud that Ms. Parsons and Mr. Choi are kind of leading the effort to gather the information we need to have that policy discussion in a really meaningful way.
I guess from my standpoint, it's given their stated sentiment, they're not going to come to us with anything that is we're having an asymmetric discussion. They are only interested in, they are the health department. They should be concerned with people's health and well-being.
I don't think that's a fair...
Well, no. I'm just saying, yes, it's a fair description of them. I find if you disagree. But I just, I really wonder, we're not going to, we're not superseding any laws of the Commonwealth. I mean, I suppose there are things we can do at the margins. It seems like a lot of work for what is going to be not a whole lot of change. Or it's unlikely to be very much change. I guess that's my other take on it. This seems like it, the survey, I assume the survey of stakeholders hasn't happened yet. We're a little behind schedule on that, right?
It's being developed right now.
Okay. So, and then that gets us to the timeline question of like, you know, where do we think we are timeline with this? Because if we're a couple months behind on that. So.
So we're behind the timeline, the proposed timeline.
I just adjusted this timeline because as we were developing the stakeholder survey, it was recommended that we include Sherry now. So we've brought Sherry in, but obviously with our transition and a big workload, the stakeholder survey hasn't been finalized, but it's almost there. And Jen is going to help us get that out to stakeholders. And then the interviews will happen simultaneously.
Councilor Carney?
Yeah, sure. This goes across the board. I'm not sure I trust any surveys we do now. We have a real communication problem. People get their information from different sources. There's no one source. In my neighborhood, 15 out of 100 people get the Wakefield Daily Ad. And I don't know how that represents the rest of the town. I'm not trying to suggest that, but it's a very low percentage, I think, of people who get the Wakefield Daily Item, where 20 years ago, that was our source of information. Mm-hmm. That's where we got all our information. And now you have all these different websites, Facebook, and people get information there. Jonathan, you do your meetings up at the library, try to get information out that way. I'm afraid of how information is being dispersed and how we're collecting. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trustful of it. Mm-hmm. We had the issue of the bicycles down in the square, and I talked to 3 businesses, and they were opposed to bike lanes. And I asked, well, where'd this information go? Who did they speak to? Because the information didn't get back to the right people. So when we say we're going to do a survey, mm-hmm. you know, you put out a survey, the questions you ask are going to, if it's fine, who's going to answer that survey?
It's a great question. So we're going to reach out directly to the licensees, both the on and off-premise licensees, so people who've had one-day licenses, and then our economic development, Aaron Cookindo will help us identify some key stakeholders who we can send this survey to from the economic development side. Same with public safety and public health. So it'll be sort of targeted outreach for the stakeholders and mostly, you know, the licensees of people who will be affected and impacted by these regulation changes and who may have a lot to say about what they currently are or what they'd hope there to be.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilor Fox?
I love your timeline. I watched your presentation for the sampling. You did a great job, Ms. Parsons. Thank you for that. My big concern is since this timeline was created and this process began, 2 liquor licenses have been given out to gas stations. Town Day had a one-day liquor license. There was a one-day liquor license at least one at the Civic Center for an event. I'm just wondering why anything is being approved while this process is going on to discuss how things will be done, especially since one of the gas stations getting a liquor license is kitty corner from an existing liquor store already. Like, why not hold off on new liquor licenses until you've completed this process next year? What's the rush for the new liquor licenses when you know this very comprehensive process is ongoing? Was there a rush for the 2 gas stations to get a liquor license now? Was there a push for it? That's the part I'm confused about. Is why keep giving out licenses when you're doing a comprehensive project? And I don't know who can even answer that.
I agree with you 100% when we first started this process, that we gave out 1 license, and then we gave out a second one. I'm not sure I'd want any more licenses until we heard the information on this. I'm really, I'm in the middle on this one for the fact that I think it's important to keep licensed liquor stores operating and competitive, and I'm not sure they're being that competitive right now. I went into one this weekend, not going to mention which one, but you know they're not being competitive when there's only 2 bottles on the shelf and there's empty shelf behind it, and they're going around pulling everything to the front. It's a very competitive business out there, and taking away the beer portion of that at 2 locations, I think will affect them. I went with the second location because it was a local businessman and put a great improvement in. But I agree with you, we should hold off on any further licenses until we resolve what this issue is, have a better idea. I'm not in disagreement with you.
Councillor Chines?
I mean, I think any individual license decision is a decision of the council. And so if a license comes before us, we have the wherewithal to approve or deny it. And, it depends on the, in this case today, 6, usually 7 people that are sitting here as to what they decide to do.
It makes sense to do it that way. I just don't know why do this year-long process, and why not just wait? Like, was there a rush for Fast Freddy's to sell beer and wine across the street from Greenwood Liquors?
Fast Freddy's had to rush for it. But...
Well, obviously Fast Freddy's wanted to rush for it.
But by the way,
'cause
I don't think either has Fast Freddy's started selling beer?
Yeah.
Oh, they have.
Yeah.
Last
not
I
Fast
checked,
Freddy's
Irving
anymore.
Or whatever, I don't know what it's
Last
called
I
over
checked,
here.
Irving hadn't started. And by the way, my gut feel, and I don't know. By the way, I'm not opposed to taking liquor licenses away if they have to be renewed. And again, I think if you go and get a liquor license, it isn't a lifetime appointment. If it's an annual renewal, and frankly, if Irving hasn't annually renewed, has an annual renewal coming up, and hasn't done anything to utilize it, I'd be very much in favor of taking it away.
We will be voting on annual renewals for every license that the town grants in December.
Yeah.
Was part of, will part of this discussion also be the licensing fees that we set? Will you?
It can be.
Yeah. So I remember, I feel like that was part of the conversation that we had pre-pandemic of the fees that we charged and with those. And so I would love some ideas of what surrounding towns do on the fees. And yes, we do normally just renew, and that's a conversation we can have. So I think it's a good conversation to have. You can see there's lots of differing opinions. I do think since we started the process that Sherry has kind of spearheaded about having this portal that people do, and that's been in my timeline, like we've actually never had a conversation about it. And like, I think to have a conversation of, is it working? Like, do people enjoy it? Is the correct information getting to people in a timely way? Including us, right? Are the right people? And I think Sherry does an amazing job. I think the fingerprinting happens and the licensing board, like all of that is cleared, but we've actually never had a conversation about it. And so I think that's a good conversation for us to have. I think talking to businesses and users of the licenses, I think that's a good conversation. I would love to see economic development have those conversations, right? Erin, talk to our stores in town. Erin, follow up and see if the gas station, the Irvine, is that the gas station? I went to the
Irvine,
mobile
I
this
think it
weekend
is.
and I saw the signs that said,
The one on Montrose.
so the one at like have, we issue that license, like, so the follow up of how quickly are these happening, I think that's all good information as we then do our renewals for us to have that information. And it is a big project. I think it's taken time. We're 7 individuals. Anyone could say postpone a vote when a liquor license comes in front of us. You're welcome to do that. I don't think we're going to recast votes that we've already taken, but I think in the future, any one of us can say, let's wait. It is a very long timeline. I love this timeline. I haven't seen one of these from Board of Health in a while, and so I love it. I think it's really in depth, and so I'm really excited for you to come back to us with what you find out. And I think the last couple of meetings, we have heard this echoing mostly to DPW, but we will say it to the Board of Health. And I think Councillor Carney is right. Like, let's get the information. We are welcoming the conversation. So, public comment, public hearings, surveys, we're going to do it all. We want to hear from people. And so I really appreciate the effort that you're both going to put into this. Councillor Chines.
One question. and this is looking ahead to license renewal season in December. Typically, we don't have licensees that are here. I don't know if in the past we've reached out to them to tell them that their license is up for renewal, but I would ask Sherry if there is, some interest in having further discussions about individual licenses, that we just let those licensees know so that they can be at the meeting and can answer questions if the council has them.
I think that comes up also with some of our car dealers that promised us certain things and probably have not delivered on those promises.
So again, if the sense, again, I don't know to what extent, maybe we have done this in the past, but I think it's important for us to kind of give them visibility that they will be on the agenda.
Right. I think we should let them know, but I also don't want people to assume that it's an automatic rubber stamp.
All the more reason we need to let them know.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to bring everyone in front, but you're right. We don't usually, when they're renewal, we don't. So I'm going to ask maybe Sherry in the next couple of meetings, maybe if we could get a list of everyone, and then if there's companies that counselors feel like they'd like to see again before we renew, then we can kind of do that and invite them and give them enough notice. I don't think we need everyone here, I think, but I think if there's specific, as you talk about the car dealerships, and if you see something that we were promised, or
if they're in violation,
if there was an agreement on the renewal, then we can kind of go from there. Does that make sense? So if we can get a list, and then if counselors let Sherry and Dee know, and then we'll invite them to come, say that we're up for a renewal. I know you want to see the fortune teller, so we will add that to the list.
I would also ask if that's right. You're taking up the mantle.
Good one, Councillor Fox. Yes. But
I would also ask. So in some of these licensing discussions, there have been a handful, not many licenses where we've put conditions on them versus licenses where there's been a preference of, it would be nice if you did X, Y, and Z. I think it would also be helpful if we could get kind of an inventory of where we actually have put conditions. So if we're saying, you didn't do this and this was a condition of license, that's a different conversation in my mind than you didn't do this and, a counselor just said it would be nice if you did this.
I think some of the car dealerships, when they do the application, they put in the number of cars they can have on their lot, and I feel like...
That's right, but there have been... some instances where, again, individual counselors have said, can you do landscaping? Sometimes that was part of...
The lights...
sometimes that was a condition of license, sometimes it wasn't, which has always made me a little bit uncomfortable, again, about the consistency around how we've
They did put tomato plants out in front, though.
Can you stop selling alcohol to people who are obviously drunk the moment they walk in the door?
Well, that's an enforcement issue that we could report to the police.
Yeah, well.
Okay, anything more for Anthony and Liz?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for this timeline. We will see you again. Much more conversations to be had, and thank you for having this not easy and lots of viewpoint discussion with us. I also just want to take a moment, Liz, to thank you for the celebration. I'm going to call it a celebration, but the recovery and remembrance celebration last week that you coordinated and your team helped to coordinate. That was last Tuesday evening at the church across from Town Hall. It was probably one of the nicest events I've been to in my town. And the personal stories, I think everyone that shared their personal recovery stories. And it was a great reminder of how amazing, Dee, you will see, but how amazing Team Wakefield is, including HHS, including public safety, and then including all the organizations and the nonprofits who give out services in town. It was really a room filled with hope, which was the theme, but also just support and love. To hear somebody chose Wakefield moving up from Texas because of how she felt in this community was a true testament of what we've created. So thank you for that. And I just, hopefully it will happen again next year and people can join. It'll get bigger, but it was a great event. So thank you for all your work on that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, we will have it next year. I hope you all can come.
I will say, of being a town councilor for 9 years, it was the first time I've seen Rep. Wong actually choke up. And so I've not seen that. And he was just, I think it was what everyone felt in that room, hearing the story. So thank you again. Okay, we'll let you leave. Okay, moving on to item 6, voting matters.
Madam Chair, move to approve the regular town meeting warrant for November 8th, 2025.
Great. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. That is unanimous, 6-0. We will see everyone on Saturday, November 8th at 8 a.m. Moving on to item 7, introductions. As I mentioned earlier, we have a new town administrator. Welcome, Dee Casey.
Thank you.
You officially were sworn in this morning, surrounded by family, and Clerk Betsy Sheeran swore you in, and we had a lovely gathering with department heads and volunteers from our committees. And I just wanted you to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to everyone watching tonight.
Thank you. Well, hello, Wakefield. My name is Denise Casey, but I go by Dee. I've been in municipal management since 1998. I got my first position in the town of Bedford in human resources, and I've spent the last 27 years in the field of municipal management. And I had a little speech I gave this morning, and one of the things that I had talked about in that is that I have just been overwhelmed by the amount of support and just welcoming that I've received from the community at the events that I have gone to. Today's event, the swearing in and the reception afterwards, was so very well attended. It was very heartwarming, to have a lot of staff come out, department heads, of course, many of the council members that could make it were there. And it just shows me what really attracted me to come to this community, which is the level of civic engagement and civic involvement. People really care about this community, and it shows by the number of volunteer committees there are and the commitment that the community puts in to having events like the farmers market, spectacular, and town day, and all the events that we've gone to, the car show. Everybody really gets involved and cares about their neighbors, and just listening to people talking to each other about their neighborhood and their children in the school system. This is an excellent community, and I'm so thrilled that I have the opportunity, thank you to the council, for giving me this opportunity. I have an open door policy. I am very much a people person, so I love meeting people. I had people just strolling in my office today, some members of the public. It was very nice. So please, if you want to get on my schedule, just call the office and we will get you on the schedule. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I've heard the office looks wonderful. I did not make it up today, but I'm excited. I heard the binders are gone.
The binders are gone. All the paper is gone.
Which is an improvement, but I am looking forward to seeing the office.
Will aid in the structural structural support of town hall now without all that paper.
Well, welcome, and I think it's a good sign that you survived all day and came to our town council meeting tonight. So I think that's success. And if you show up tomorrow, then we've got you. Okay, and so and just to make clear, with Town Administrator Dee Casey starting, we thank Kevin Gill as being interim town administrator, and with the appointment of Dee, Kevin will go back to being the assistant town administrator. And Kevin's not here today, but just thank him for keeping us above water for the last couple of months. We thank you very much. And we do not need to take a vote on that, I've been told. Okay, moving on. Item 8, donations.
Madam Chair, move to accept donations in the amount of $862.83 for the Council on Aging from various donors with thanks.
John.
Second.
Second, great. All in favor? Say aye. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who.
83 cents.
What's that?
Who donated 83 cents?
I don't know.
I'm donating the balance of my high school class reunion budget, and it is 31 cents.
There we go.
There we go.
Will we vote on that next time?
Things happen, the bank charges.
That's true.
I'd be mad if, we could have gotten that. We could have used that 31 cents at the reunion, so.
Our next vote involves 4 cents. I mean, that's,
So to that end, Madam Chair, move to approve donations in the amount of $29,363.04 to the BB Library from various donors, including the Friends of the BB Library, with thanks.
Second.
Second, great. All in favor say aye. 6-0 unanimous. Thank you. Item 9, approval of minutes.
Move to approve the Town Council meeting minutes from September 22nd, 2025.
Second.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. 6-0. Thank you. Item 10, announcements. Councillor Chines.
Just a couple of things I wanted to mention. First of all, if anyone's looking for plans on October 18th, which is a week from this coming Saturday, 2 great events to participate in. The first is a Black History tour that 2 residents are hosting here in Wakefield. They actually did a tour back in May when we rededicated the Civil War Memorial that was incredibly well attended and really incredibly well done. So if you're interested, if you missed that and wanted to join again, that's from 2:30 to 4 on Saturday the 18th, starting at the BB. You can sign up from the library website. And then later today, if you're looking for some great entertainment, the amazing award-winning Wakefield High School Warrior Marching Band will be hosting the NESBA Band competition at Landrigan Field. I believe that starts at 4, though Wakefield will be performing late. So if you aren't able to get there until later in the evening, just get there by about 8:15 or so, and you'll be able to see our marching band, I imagine, with another award-winning performance. So please come on by to Landrigan for that. And then finally, just wanted to mention the Conservation Commission has a couple of info sessions coming up on a proposed wetlands bylaw that they're developing. This is not on the warrant for town meeting in November, but something that they've been working on and are looking for public feedback. Those 2 info sessions are scheduled for October 14th, which is next Tuesday, and the 29th.
Great. Thank you. Any other updates? Councillor Chrisley?
Just a reminder that we have the Environmental Sustainability Committee meeting this Thursday, so if anyone is interested in the range of sustainability issues going on in Wakefield, they're welcome to attend. And I just wanted to give a belated shout out to the band that played at Wakefield Town Day. It was the first time I've been to Town Day and somebody's done a very respectable cover of a Jimi Hendrix song, so I thank the band personally for that.
they did a very good job with that one. It's very impressive.
You're seconding my motion?
Yes, absolutely.
I greatly
I was
appreciate that.
shocked, honestly, just to hear him start playing it, so.
That's on that vein. We want to thank everyone who helped make Town Day so successful, including whoever got the sun to come out and the rain to stay away. But thank you to the chamber and people from Team Wakefield, including Jen and Aaron, everyone that helped make the day really successful. Thank you, Dee, for coming when you weren't officially didn't have a start day and met with people. It was a great day. Thank you to all the nonprofits and the departments that were there. That was great. Just 2 events to mention. Wakefield Wave Alliance Against Violence is having their 5K on Saturday, October 25th. It's a big fundraiser, always a great run around the lake. I think Team Chines usually ends up winning a lot of awards between Jonathan and his son, but it is a great event. And so more information on their website. And then the counselors will get more information about this, but earlier this year, we had an Eagle Scout come about his project with the chess tables, and it is ready to be installed. And it should be installed Thursday at 4. You'll get more information about that. But if you want to go and see it being installed, particularly those who have been former Eagle Scouts or Boy Scouts, you can go see that Thursday at 4 p.m. Any other announcements? Tom, Dee, Sherry?
All set.
Great. Okay. Then item 11, any matters not anticipated for the agenda? Love it. And then item 12.
Madam Chair, move to adjourn until October 20th, 2025.
Second. Great. All in favor say aye. Say aye. Thank you all. Meeting adjourned, and we will have our next regular town council meeting on Monday, October 20th at 7 p.m. Thank you.